Yeah, I've read a lot about when people are depressed and anxious and even approaching suicide, they will express oftentimes in writing before they take the final action that all they really needed, what they really hoped for, was that one person would express that they care for them, that their life matters, that deepness of a relationship that you're describing. And I remind people very often, one of the little things you can do to help people is to just try to do whatever you can do to let them know their life matters. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense. The depth of that relationship builds caring, builds trust, and becomes critical in terms of, a sense of happiness in life. So that's really, really important. Thank you for that.
And Kelly, if I can add to that, you were talking about loneliness here, and long before there was the corona pandemic, we as a society are struggling with loneliness pandemic. And this is, as you pointed out, one of the reasons why suicide levels have gone up. And it also affects our physical health, of course, being lonely. And that goes back to the notion that to experience happiness through cultivating relationships, through friendship, through reaching out, and through having meaningful conversations. That is important for our psychological well-being, for our physical well-being. It's also important for our success, because very often people put aside relationships and are willing to endure a great deal of loneliness because they think this is the price they have to pay for success. Now, not all loneliness is self-imposed, and therefore we also have a responsibility to reach out and alleviate other people's loneliness too.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the final P, which is my favorite, which stands for purpose. And I think we share a common author here. One of my other 5 great books is Man's Search for Meaning, written by Viktor Frankl, who, as you know, survived the Holocaust, spent 3 years in Auschwitz, and wrote this book, which is awesome. I highly recommend it. But in that book, he has a quote that I like, which is that when you know your why, you can endure any how. And you've quoted Viktor Frankl as well. At Truist, we say that our purpose is our number one differentiator because we think it defines who we are and why we're here. So we think it's very important as it ultimately leads to happiness. But I know you intend that as well. Can you explain that a bit to our audience, please?
Yes, so, having a sense of purpose, once again, is important for the two sides of the equation, both for success as well as for happiness. Having a sense of purpose is especially important in difficult times. You quoted Viktor Frankl, who talks about the importance of having a why so that we can overcome any how. And it is important for us at work. It is no less important, perhaps even more important for children. So there's work done at Stanford by William Damon on the path to purpose. And there he talks about how most children growing up, most teenagers, don't have a sense of purpose. And they are, in his words, drifters. In other words, without a clear sense of direction. And the price that they pay for it is extremely high in terms of their well-being, in terms of their success, in terms of their resilience. So we need that why. The question is, how do we find this why? And here, Viktor Frankl makes another important distinction, which is between the meaning of life and the meaning in life. Now, the meaning of life is about, the big reason. Why am I here? The big questions. And many people get this through religion. Others get it through a deep sense of commitment at work, to their community, families. However, we don't only need to rely on the meaning of life or the purpose of life. We can also look for and find the meaning in life, meaning in our day-to-day activities. For example, Research by Amy Wisniewski and Jane Dutton, initially done out of the University of Michigan, shows that even janitors in hospitals were able to find meaning in their work. Not all of them were, but some of them were. In those same hospitals, nurses, doctors, and administrators, some found meaning in their work, others did not. Those who found meaning in their work, who were able to translate what they were doing to meaningful, important, impactful activities, to see the purpose in their day-to-day, not just got more out of their work, they also gave more to their work. They were more successful, more effective, of course, happier and healthier as well. You know, it reminds me of a story of my partner and my co-author in The Joy of Leadership, Angus Ridgway, was having lunch with his brother-in-law. And his brother-in-law is a cardiologist. And what he does day in and day out is put in pacemakers, and every few years takes the pacemaker out and puts batteries in and puts the pacemaker back in. That's his specialty, pacemakers. So Angus was having lunch with him, and he's British, with a British sense of humor. He said to his brother-in-law, Ever, I finally understand what you do for a living. So his brother-in-law says, what? And Angus said, you change batteries. Now, his brother-in-law didn't even smile. He looked at him intently and said, Angus, you're right. Some days I change batteries. Other days I save lives. In other words, once again, we have a choice. Do we seek the meaning, the purpose in what we're doing? Because when we do and we find it, that transforms, that changes our experience at work. It changes our experience of life as a whole. And the thing is, we have a choice. Whether we are, janitors in hospitals or cardiologists, whether we're working in business or in education, we can find the places in our work, the areas where we are making a difference, where we are having an impact, where we are positively influencing people's lives. And I know, Kelly, that in Truist, you emphasize this, and you point out, you help the employees find the reason for doing what they're doing, whether it's through their day-to-day work at the bank, whether it's through the foundation, of course.
That is exactly right. That's our whole approach with our teammates, is to try to help them align with the company's purpose so that it becomes, in part, not all, but in part, their purpose. And so, as I say, when you're coming to work, you really don't have to think about coming to work anymore. You're coming to join a group of people that you like, to do something that is meaningful and purposeful for you. And in so doing, not every single thing you do every day will be quote unquote happy, but at the end of the day, you're more likely than not to walk away with a sense of happiness, a sense of good feeling, a sense of well-being, that my life mattered because I and some people I enjoy working with did something worthwhile today. And so you're right, it does clearly lead to happiness, and is very, very important. So we can't go through this interview with all what reading I've done about one of your main sources of wisdom without talking about your barber. And so I was reading through that, Tal, and I love this one story about the little girl who approached him about sponsoring the T-shirts for her camp. And she said, if you'll sponsor, you can advertise. And he said, I won't do that. But he had another idea. Can you tell us about his other idea?
Yeah, I must say something about the book which I wrote about the wisdom of my barber, and it really brought home to me that you can find answers or questions and wisdom everywhere. We just need to make the choice to look for it, to open up to it. I was having a haircut one day, and I went way too often because of the wisdom more so than for the haircut. And a young girl comes in, and she asks for a donation because they want to make T-shirts with an imprint for the teachers at camp. And he said to her, "Yeah, I'll give you the money. I'll sponsor you, but don't put my name or my barbershop name on it. Instead, I want you to do two things. The first thing I want you to do is put either a funny face or a funny image on the T-shirt. So when people look at it, they laugh or at least smile. That's the first thing I want you to do. The second thing I want you to do is that everyone who gets a free T-shirt has to serve it forward. How? By committing one act of kindness for one other person." And she agreed, and she did that. Now, this is so smart and so wise and so good. Why? A, because when you see something funny, and you smile, smiles are contagious. You're likely to affect another person next to you. So he was creating a positive chain reaction that started with the T-shirt, the shirt that he helped them make. So this is one way in which he was spreading goodness. The second way was an act of kindness. Acts of kindness are also contagious. So if you are a receiver of an act of kindness, you're much more likely to then go on and pay it forward or serve it forward. So he was creating another chain reaction of goodness where everyone benefits, because we also know that people who do good, who help others, are also helping themselves, also feel better about themselves. So just with that, his act of kindness, which is helping a good cause, he was spreading goodness outwards. Now, he understands a very important idea, and that is that the ultimate currency, the highest end, is happiness. And by doing what he did, he may not have gotten money or advertisement for what he did, but he did get rewarded in the ultimate currency, in the currency of happiness. And he generated more happiness, more goodness for others.
That's such a powerful story. I have read a study that shows that this is actually chemical. Like people running, we'll talk about the runner's high, where actually the brain causes endorphins to be released, and it causes the body actually chemically to feel better. And they've now proven that when you do kindness, when you do things to help others, the brain does the same thing. It releases those endorphins. So this is not just a theoretical idea. This is a chemical reaction. So it really does work.
Yeah, I must say, every time I encounter studies regarding our brain or our entire system, I'm amazed. Whether you call it God or nature, it's pretty remarkable that we were created to do good. Yeah, surely not all people, certainly not all of the time, do good, but we have innate mechanisms that pull us, that push us, that incline us towards goodness by helping us feel better when we help others feel better.
Absolutely. And, I just want to hit a few other areas and as we begin to move towards wrapping up, because I'll just say to our audience, you're listening to a person who is extraordinarily wise and tall in terms of how to help you achieve a higher level of happiness. And I hope you'll read his books. It's just full. I'm just picking out a few little tidbits, but one is about curiosity, which I was surprised about, and how curiosity leads to happiness. How does that work?
Yeah, we are told from a very young age that curiosity kills the cat. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But what curiosity also does is bring us to life. And I don't just mean that metaphorically. There's actually research showing that people who are curious, who ask questions, who are learners, they actually live longer, all other things being equal. In other words, by learning, by exploring, by being open to ideas, we don't just improve our cognitive functioning, our physiological functioning also benefits. So asking questions, being lifelong learners is not just enjoyable and fun, potentially. It's also good for us. It's healthy.
And as is passion, you quoted Steve Jobs in saying that you should pursue your passion, don't live someone else's life. That's pretty powerful also.
Yeah, and you know what passion does is it brings together so many of the ideas that we spoke about, because passion is, of course, about experiencing positive emotions. We enjoy it. It's also about doing things that are meaningful to us. When we're passionate about something, we're also usually absorbed in what we're doing. So we also exercise our strength when we're doing things that we're passionate about. So many of the elements that lead to physical, psychological health, to success, are associated with passion. Now, what's important to keep in mind, though, is that we can't experience passion 24/7. Just like we can't experience a sense of meaning and purpose 24/7. Sometimes we do mundane things, and sometimes we're tired, and sometimes, all we want to do is, vegetate in front of the TV and not go to work or interact. And that's okay. The thing, though, is that if we have, earlier I talked about islands of sanity. If we have periods in our day when we are engaged passionately with what we're doing, when we do experience a sense of meaning and purpose, when we are absorbed, having these islands throughout the day, and preferably more and more of them, but even just a handful of them here and there, that in and of itself propels us, that in and of itself fuels us, energizes us to be at our best.
Absolutely. And, thinking about changing and being at our best and, controlling the way we think reminds me of another one of my 5 great books, which I'm sure you like, is Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. And so she's talking about a growth mindset. That's really a lot about what you're talking about, isn't it? When you talk about choices in life, believing in yourself and choosing to be happy, that's really a growth mindset, isn't it?
Very much so. A growth mindset is about the belief that we can learn, that we can evolve, that things are not fixed. Now, that turns out to be critical for every domain in life, personal and professional. So people who have a growth mindset, who believe that they can learn, are much better at work. Why? Because when they encounter a setback or a barrier or difficulties or hardships, they don't say to themselves, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about it. On the contrary, they say, this is where I need to work even harder. This is when I need, to pick myself up and invest time, effort, thought. And then, as a result, they're more likely to overcome the barrier and the hardship. Similarly, in relationships, every relationship, no exception, encounters difficulties and hardships, barriers, and challenges. The question is, what do we do when we face those? Do we, again, put our hands up and we say, well, we're just not meant to be together, or this is not going to work? Or do we start really working and really exploring and trying and investing in the relationship? If we have a growth mindset, we'll do the latter. We'll invest. We'll put the effort necessary. And as a result of that, we're much more likely to overcome the barrier and grow even stronger. Needless to say, this applies to sports. It applies to schoolwork. At every age, in every domain, we see how important the growth mindset is.
Yeah, I've found it to be just critical. We talk about it a lot at Truist because, our industry is changing so fast. And if you choose to have a fixed mindset, it just makes it really, really hard. But if you choose to have a growth mindset, then you can learn, you can grow, you can move forward with change and enjoy it because you are learning and you are growing.
Exactly.
So, Tal, as we wrap up, I want to share with you, it's ironic. I just sat down one day and just wrote down, because I was trying to talk to our teammates, and I was really worried about all the distress that's going on over the last year. And so I just wrote down, and it was actually before I had a chance to read your books. If I'd have read your books, I would have just passed out your books. But I said that, I just said, look, I think there are 4 easy steps to being happier. And I said, it's number 1, choose to be happy. Number 2, be clear about what your purpose in life is. Number 3, decide to have a growth mindset. And number 4, to help others. I know that's not as comprehensive as your philosophy, but is that kind of sound in my thinking, so I can decide if I should continue to share it with others?
Absolutely. And the key is, Kelly, when you take these ideas, is to realize that the important element here is to follow up on any one of those 4 or all 4. To follow up, to be consistent. In other words, to apply the 3 R's. To remind yourself, for example, of the importance of the growth mindset regularly, or to remind yourself of the importance of finding purpose. Then to repeat it, to do it over and over again, whether it's the reminders, whether it's the giving on a consistent basis, not just once or twice, but to make it a habit. So repeat it until it becomes a ritual. And then this is how, you mentioned earlier neuroplasticity. This is how we actually change our brains, help our brains grow and become more resilient, better able to deal with the current situation. So yes, these 4 elements are, each one of them, independently and certainly when you put them together, are extremely powerful ways into a more resilient, a happier, healthier, and also more moral, just life.
Exactly. Well, you've been very kind with your time. We're about ready to close. Any final thoughts you would like to share with the thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people that are going to see this video?
One of the ways to increase levels of happiness as well as goodness is to regularly express gratitude. And so I would like to express gratitude for the opportunity. I would like to express gratitude for what Truist is doing for the community, both clients and beyond, and for the opportunity to share the science of happiness, or a little bit of the science of happiness, which I think can help us get through and even grow stronger as a result of these difficult times that we're going through. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, for spending your time with us. I have personally learned a lot. I am sure our audience has. And I'm encouraging everybody to not watch it once, but repetition. Watch this over and over and over. There's so much wisdom here. And if you will apply it, it will make you a happier person. And one final thought I just want to leave with you, because I share this with our teammates as often as I can. It's a simple little thing, but please try it, because helping really does help others, and it really does help you be happier. When you get up in the morning and you're getting ready, even before you greet your own loved ones, imagine someone hands you a handful of little seeds. These are seeds of hope. And every time you go out and do a little something extra, a little extra how are you, and wait for the answer, a pat on the back, a little big smile. Every time you do one of those little things in your mind, just take one of those little seeds and toss it down on the ground. You just planted a seed of hope. And if you will do that throughout your life as best you can, nobody gets it perfect, but just do the best you can. As your life draws close to an end, you'll be able to look back and you'll see those seeds have sprouted up. You'll see that little child down in the park that needed a little help, and you spend a little extra time with them, helping them learn how to read a book. You'll see a loved one who was having trouble in their marriage, and you gave them some really important words and helped them in their life. You'll see all the people that you have helped. Your little seeds will have sprouted up into a really big garden, a really big forest, and you'll see that your life has changed the world. So on behalf of Tal and myself, we wish you the best and ask you to go out and choose to be happy. Have a blessed day.